I drank a lot at the beginning of the lockdown.
Really?
And I think, pretty much like everybody did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's too much. The world is too fucking people-y for me to be
Right.
on alcohol.
Yeah, I haven't drank at all since lockdown started. I haven't done anything. So this is our first episode of the Stage Show Chronicles. I'm Brian. This is Christian.
What's up, everybody?
Let's see here. I've known Christian.
Oh my God!
I was thinking about this the other day. I met you. So I think the year was '96, and the reason why I know that is because I met you during the Avalanche's first run at the Cup. The first Cup.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So that's when I first met you. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, because I was playing street hockey with
Were
Kevin.
you out there with with the GHL, the Ghetto Hockey League?
Yep. Yes, I was.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
And then we came back.
That's right.
That's the first time I met you. So,
Mongo was still around then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a lot of people I haven't seen from back then. I guess Keith talks to some of them every now and again. Last I talked to him about it, that's been years since I talked to him about that. But Christian and I haven't seen each other in person in almost 2.5 years now. Has it been that long already? It's been that long. My last day at the center was July 13th, 2018. So let's get this out of the way. Obviously, I've gotten a little bit of extra weight since no work and being locked in the house will do that to you.
Yeah, it's another reason I'm not drinking like I did at the beginning of the lockdown.
Yeah. So yeah, we decided to do this. We got two out of work stage hands, out of work musicians.
Yeah.
Not much better to do. So we figured, hey, let's start a little podcast. Stories. Yeah, we'll tell some stories about our careers and we'll see what happens. So
yeah, basically it's going to be, Colorado centric podcast that, we're going to talk about our local music scene. We're going to reminisce a lot. We're going to talk about our local live scene as far as venues, our arena, our theaters, our smaller venues like the Black Sheep. And man, we got stories to tell.
Absolutely.
We've been in so many bands over, like for instance, this episode here we're going to talk a lot about Chris Forsyth, obviously, as you can tell by Brian's background. And like, for instance, I met Chris at the old Pure Energy in '93. Wow. When he was living in the basement. Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that earlier today because, getting ready for this episode. So.
Yeah, I met Chris when I first joined the Color Insane, which was back in '90. I was 21, so that was in '94.
Yeah, that's right about the time I met you two.
Yeah.
That was Pure Energy still on Cimarron, or had it already moved to where the Black Sheep is now?
I didn't get into the scene in Colorado until the one on Platte. I never did go to the Pure Energy that was on Cimarron. It was still there when I moved back here or back to Colorado from Seattle.
Gotcha. Yeah, you were part of that group that went to Seattle.
Yeah, and
you and
there's Jim Steckman and Chad McEwen and
yeah.
There was a bunch of Craig Riggle went out there. Yeah,
that's right.
And when we came back, because we had a band out there, and we came back, wasn't playing.
I remember when you came back, you were wearing combat boots and flannel.
That's not true, but well, maybe the flannel part was true, but that's about it. So I met Chris after I joined the Color Insane. It was kind of weird how I ended up in that group, and he was in a group called Evil Genius at the time with Super Dave.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God.
And that's about the same time I met Matt Mingle. He was in not Evil Genius, Freak Show at the time.
Wait, wasn't that both Chris's bands? Though?
No, I kept thinking that too. But Freak Show had, I believe their singer's name was Crow. I think his name was.
Okay.
I
don't remember that guy.
Their singer bass player. I didn't know him very well. Nice guy, but that's
I was 93. I started playing with Idle Hands. We did all
really.
Rock. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I never got to experience Chris in his glam rock days or anything like that. His Paris Burning days, but I've seen lots of pictures.
Paris Burning with Rodella, right?
If I remember right.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's right.
I've heard a lot about it, and
there's some pretty motherfuckers.
I tell you what, something that Chris never got credit for. Obviously, last band I was in with him was Malachi, very heavy, very growly and scream and all that. And but people thought that's all he could do. The guy really could. He could hold a tune. Now, even with his gravelly voice, he could hit some notes. And
yeah, he could sing.
Yeah, he really could.
But he really didn't. He really didn't grow, I don't think, as a musician and a performer until he started growling. He was his growl was so unique.
Right.
I mean, it was so fucking unique, and everybody in town was trying to copy it.
Right.
Back then, when he first started doing it. So yeah, I mean, I think he was personally, and it's not just the singer and me speaking right now. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I don't think he really flourished until he started to use that technique. Right.
He was definitely a metal frontman, and
for sure
one of the best there was. And that was. I think that's when he felt most at home. I mean.
Oh well, we should tell people why we're talking about him.
Absolutely right. Now, when this first comes out, it'll be October 14th. Which is the 5-year anniversary of Chris's passing, Chris Forsyth's passing. So we thought we'd do this episode just as a remembrance, some happy memories. I can't believe it's already been 5 years. It's just insane to me. But,
it's crazy, man.
Right. But that's why this picture I have behind me, you can't see the bottom, but it says Sizzle on there. That started after he passed away. This started passing around I don't know if it was like on Facebook or whatever. So my point being is that I don't know who did the artwork. I wish I did. I would love to give that person credit because I absolutely love the picture.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's really fun.
Right. But
Leilani got me one of those.
Really? Yeah. I as soon as I saw it, I thought it was just fantastic. And speaking of his screaming, you can tell he's probably doing that in that picture right there. So that's obviously why we're doing this. We have lots of memories with Chris. You're talking about how unique his scream was. And I think when I first realized just how unique his scream and growl was after this. Now, okay, let me go back a little bit. So I was in Color Insane.
Tell your story, bro. Tell your story.
I was into Color Insane, ended up Color Insane. I left the band, ended up breaking up. I decided I was going to move to New Orleans because I had
I remember that now.
A house in my family that I was supposed to get that was in the Garden District in New Orleans. And for the life of me, I can't remember how or why, but Chris decided he was going to come with me. So he did.
Yeah.
And
I remember
this is one of the first crazy stories of Chris that I have is the day that we left. neither he nor I were together. We were meeting up right before. We were either going to meet up at the bus station or on the way to the bus station. Well, he didn't meet me beforehand. I met him there, and I got
Greyhound
there.
downtown.
Yep, and I got there. I got there first. Next thing I know, he pulls up with Todd Jones.
Oh shit!
Into like the up on the sidewalk and stuff. They pull up. They get out. That's another one. Todd Jones passed away a couple years ago as well. So rest in peace to Todd. But they pull up, and I couldn't believe they get out. I mean, they're stumbling drunk, right? Which I'm like, whatever. We're getting on the bus, no big deal. Well, there's a bunch of people there all to see us off. We go inside the Greyhound. We get our luggage put there, and Todd and Chris are literally have a huge bottle of vodka or tequila or whatever it was, and they're sitting there slamming it in the middle of this Greyhound, and I'm just like, okay, this isn't good, you know. So they proceed to get even more drunk. I don't know how we didn't get kicked out of there. I imagine the Greyhound sees lots of crazy shit going on, but we go to get on the bus. They put our stuff onto the bus, and Chris is walking on in front of me, and they tell us we're not getting on. And they're like, yeah, you guys, you're not getting on this bus. And I was like, I mean, Chris was so drunk and just talking shit to everybody. And finally I got him to call, and he wasn't really out of control or anything at this point, but he was talking shit to people. And so I finally get him a little bit under control. They let us on the bus. Surprisingly enough, we get on there. We're cruising down. We couldn't have been. I think we were just about to get to New Mexico, so we're not that far into this journey, right? And Chris, it's like middle of the night, and everybody's sleeping. And any of you that are familiar with Chris, when he gets drunk, knows that his decibels go up about a good 7-8 decibels up when he's talking. So he's talking, he's so loud. And finally the bus driver looks up.
The more he was buzzed, the louder he got. Man.
And we're only we're probably about 7 seats behind the driver. And he finally looks up, and we're coming to some stop it's in the middle of nowhere, something like you see in a video where an army guy will get on the bus or something going to Hollywood, whatever. We're there, and he looks up and he's like, look, if you guys don't be quiet, and the whole time I'm not saying anything, it's all Chris. If you guys don't be quiet, you're getting off the bus right now, and I'm leaving you here. And we're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, okay, Chris, please just chill out, man. Just lower the voice just a little bit. And it was so funny. You know, at the time I was a little flipped out, but looking back on it, I was like, it's just such classic Chris. He didn't mean anybody any harm. He, you know, I was just like, just please.
He just happened to be on a bus.
Just happened to be on a bus in a little road rocket. And he quieted down for about 10 minutes and then just passed out cold. He was out after that. Didn't wake up till we got to Albuquerque. So, and the rest of the trip was
fine.
It was I don't know if it was fine. We ended up we stayed in Albuquerque we had to stay there for a couple of hours. We get on the bus from there, and I get on. I find a seat, and there's literally like 2 seats on this bus, and they're not together. So I go get in one seat. Chris sits in a seat with this lady who's so large, she's literally halfway into his seat. And he looks at me, he's like, are you fucking kidding me, man? You got to make me do this? And I was like, I tell you what, man, we'll switch halfway through. And I'm sitting all the way in the back, like there's like a jump seat in the back. So it's just like a single seat, not very comfortable as it was. And so I'm sitting there looking at Chris the whole time, because I'm basically sitting in the aisle. And I'm looking at him. He's basically sitting in the aisle because he has no choice, because this lady next to him is a very large woman. And he's just sitting there, and you can tell he's just got that like little kid grump to him from behind. Sitting like this. Every now and again, he looks back at me. He flips me off. Fucking, I can't believe you did this to me, man. And, so finally, we switched. We ended up getting one of the last buses we got on that took us into New Orleans. There's almost nobody on it, and we both crashed out. We were out cold. But we get to New Orleans, and my stepdad was picking us up, and that, you know, my stepdad's wasn't a big fan of mine. So he wasn't exactly happy about doing this. But anyway, he picks us up. We go to get our luggage. They're like, yeah, your stuff's not on here. We're like,
Excuse me.
we're like, what are you talking about? It got on when we got on. And they're like, yeah, your stuff's on the way to Miami. We're like, what? So it's at one of our layovers, they put it on the wrong one. I personally think they did that shit on purpose. I think that first driver got off and was like, I don't care where you send their shit, but don't put it on their bus. So we get, again, I don't remember why Chris agreed to go down there with me or why he decided he wanted to. So we get down here. We worked on a tree farm over here in Mississippi, which was brutal. So we didn't get to do a whole lot. We went and checked out a bar one time that was very similar to Pure Energy, but that's the most we got out.
Pure Energy. Oh yeah. No.
Yeah, and
he just remember that you said you didn't go to Pure Energy when it was on Cimarron.
Right, and
that was a totally different bar, kind of.
That's what I understand. Yeah, but a couple months in, because he had just started dating his well, he hadn't just started dating her. I think they had been dating for a while. His daughter's mom, Hannah, and it turned. She was eventually, at some point, the plan was for her to move out and stay with us in this house. Well, my stepdad, the way that I got left this house was my stepdad's parents. And then once he was around Chris and I, he was like, "There's no way in hell I'm letting you guys stay in there for any period of time, not while I'm alive," kind of thing. And, which was BS, because that's the way it was supposed to go. But there was not a whole lot I could do. So Chris said, "Fuck this. I'm going back to Colorado." He missed his girlfriend, which understandable. You know, he went back, ended up getting married, having a beautiful daughter. And then I came back. It was a little while later. I stayed for a little bit longer, but, you know, not having him around or anybody that I knew.
Anybody.
Yeah. Right. And I was still, I was 23 when we did that. And I stayed out here. I stayed out in New Orleans for a bit, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going home. And actually, I went back I was in Triton's wedding. So I came back for that. And once I got here, I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going back to New Orleans. I'm just staying here. This is too much fun. So, yeah, that was the first. Oh, I think I know. That's what happened was, after Color and Stain broke up, I ended up moving in with Chris and Hannah in this little apartment. See, I don't remember if that was before New Orleans or afterwards.
Where was that at?
It was over off of Vickers and Academy. And it actually had to have been after New Orleans, because before we moved to New Orleans, I lived in Danny Bristow, the first house that he bought down on Woodburn, down south. And I was living there.
Danny!
Went there. Yeah, I miss Danny too.
Yeah, man, he drops in on the street now and again. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So, let's see. You got what's your band experience with Chris?
Like you were when I met him again. This was when Pure Energy was on Cimarron, across the street from that 7-Eleven, which is now an Antiques. I think it's still an Antiques or a paint store or some shit.
I think you're right.
But Sam was the owner then, and then he moved the bar up to Platt before he sold it. And then did Soda Jerk buy that off of him?
No, because it went to Industrial Nation and
oh, that's right, the lesbian chicks.
Yeah, and I think it was one other bar before it became.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. God damn, man. Y'all calm the fuck down. Everybody, right now, take a fucking deep breath. Calm the fuck down. Chill, man. We're just having a discussion. Fuck, bro.
It was what it was.
No, it's a word, and it was used in a sentence, and that's about it.
All right.
Fuck. But anyways, I digress. So, music was totally different back then. You know what I mean? The alternative bands, the Oughta Know, and fuck, who else was around back then? Fucking, it's hard to remember right now, but Idle Hands and Random Specs. There was a lot of alt bands that were playing that bar, the Deluxe Tavern, and the Underground, when the Underground was still doing bands. You know what I mean? Zen Radios down there and shit. So music was the metal scene was, you guys were just coming out of the Hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember any really heavy bands during the time, 93 to 94, or maybe even early 95, that there were a lot of heavy bands.
Right.
I just remember a lot of alt bands and shit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, those were those venues were always full, man. You know,
Right.
always full for bands, and like the underground was fucking packed all the time back then. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Black Mondays, fucking.
Oh my God, it's been a long time since I heard that.
When John, my ex roommate John Stetler was the DJ for Black Mondays and shit for what, man? That was some crazy times. We ain't gonna get into that, but you know. So Chris was helping Sam run it, right? He was booking bands and tending bar and living in the basement, I guess. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's where I first met the guy. And then he introduced me to Kevin, who eventually also joined Idle Hands. And then Kevin was the catalyst for the forming of Godless Promise Mechanism, which
really?
Chris and I, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he came up with the original sequences that we used for that first EP in '96.
Huh? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's all Kevin Rodella right there.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's all Kevin Rodella right there. But yeah, I mean, man. And then of course, that place shut down and it moved up to Platt. And, you know, well, we all know what happened there for, what was it, 95, 96, 97. I mean, scene was strong back then, man. We had Color Insane, fucking Last Supper, fucking, there was a lot of fucking good bands back then. Fucking Knucklehead, man. So good, man, right? Fucking Posnag, fucking awesome. So many awesome bands. The music scene in Colorado Springs, and we're talking about Colorado Springs.
Right.
I can't believe we didn't mention it before right now in this fucking podcast. Sorry you guys had to wait. Make sure you put it in the title.
I will.
Somehow. But the scene was so fucking strong and diverse back then, man. It was fucking amazing. It was a good time to be a musician in Colorado Springs. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, another reason why it's important that we're talking about Colorado, not only are Christian and I not together because of a pandemic, but I'm also, 1,300 miles away. I live down on the Gulf Coast in Mississippi.
Yeah, man.
So we're doing this,
pre-storm.
Pre-storm's right. It's supposed to come in the morning. We got Hurricane Delta coming in. I don't think we're going to get too much of it. I think it's going to skirt us for the most part. So we're going to be good. It's only about the 8th time this year that we've been threatened with a storm and it's gone somewhere else. And,
hey, man, all I got to say about that is, they don't call it Hurricane Alley for nothing. They don't call it Tornado Alley for nothing. You don't see me living in fucking Avalanche Lane and shit here in Colorado, bro. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's funny. So from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that I remember Matt wasn't in GPM at first, right? Matt Mingle.
No. Well, GPM started out as a studio project, right? So Kevin did all the sequencing, right, and came up with the tracks. And then Chris and I all of a sudden found ourselves writing lyrics to the music, right? Our thinking back then was, and back then we were listening to some of that earlier industrial. We were definitely, listening to fucking Nine Inch Nails and fucking Ministry for sure.
Yeah.
But we were also listening to bands like fucking Frontline Assembly,
right?
242. You know what I mean? Fucking. So we, and I have a pretty diverse musical background. I mean, I grew up in Europe, in Germany specifically. I started band early in middle school. in the 80s, I was in a heavy metal band that was just for American teenagers, and on the weekends we were clubbing. You know, I started clubbing professionally. I guess 16. I guess I was 16. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but again, it was a studio project, and it was only going to be a studio project. But then we decided, because we thought it was pretty new and pretty ballsy to attempt in this landlocked little fucking burg,
right,
you know, that we love so much. Keep Colorado Springs weird, but you know. So when we decided we wanted to do it live, and Kevin did not want to, we were like, yeah, we need a guitar player. We need a fucking guitar player that's smoking fucking hot.
mm-hmm.
And that just happened to be Matt motherfucking Mangle. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Now, this is the part I'm remembering. Did Chris and Matt live together at the time on Nevada, didn't they? In like an apartment on Nevada. I don't know why.
They did. That's where we recorded That's where we recorded.
That's the story.
Sock.
That's the story I heard. And I don't remember if there was like a storm involved, a blizzard or something involved. But you guys had kind of locked yourselves up and you know, had a lot of fun. And
I think we did it over a 4-day period.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Let's call it a long weekend.
Yeah.
We'll call it a long fucking weekend, right? Yeah, but I mean, I remember we were Chris and I were recording vocal tracks in this fucking little 1-bedroom apartment, tiny ass bathroom and shit. Right? It was a half bath, right? Because we couldn't go into the big bath. It was too big. It was too echoey, right? So, and we did everything back then. We were doing everything on 4-track fucking cassette, man.
Mm-hmm.
God bless Fostex.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, we did a whole fucking EP of industrial fucking metal, and released that shit in a city that never heard that kind of shit before.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it grew into what it is. You know, I mean, it's 2020, and Matt and I are going to release a record this year still, or New Year's Day rather.
That's awesome. And I tell you, I believe, I don't remember if I heard the record first or if I came and saw you play live. I want to say I saw you play live first. And I remember seeing it and being, first I was confused because I didn't know anything about.
It was art. It was bold. It was some bullshit.
Right.
But we knew, first of all, all we knew was when we fucking performed the shit, it made us feel different.
Yeah.
Good. It made us feel like we were creating something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Something that we did not know what the fuck we were doing. We didn't know fucking, you know what I mean? We didn't know what we were doing, man. We fucking Frankenstein that shit together.
Yeah.
And, you know, all we knew is that we were fans,
mm-hmm.
and that we wanted to put our own spin on that particular genre of music.
Right.
Because we were targeting dance and metal, you know,
mm-hmm.
way back then.
And it was great. You know, when I, like I said, when I first saw it, just being confused, only seeing, I don't remember if it was, maybe there was 3 of you on stage. I don't remember if Ken was a part of it all at that point.
Yeah, he was always in the back with this fucking computer tower.
Right. And but then when you started playing, man, it was so good and so fresh and something I hadn't heard before. And I remember thinking, wow, man, this is and the way you guys sang, especially, you know, when you guys did
that was another, I always thought
awesome.
that was another unique thing, because Chris and I were so fucking different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was right at the beginning of when he was starting to find his growl.
Right.
GPM led him to his fucking growl.
Right.
Pretty much, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it was a very unique experiment, and I'm really glad to have been a part of it, or be a part of it still.
It was.
We were we have managed to rescue one of the songs off of that '96 EP, but we couldn't rescue his vocal tracks because it was 4 tracks. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's fucking Everything Bad 2020 is a banger, man. And he would be well fucking pleased if he could hear that fucking song.
Awesome. That's awesome. I don't know how long you guys were together. How long were you together?
Shit. Didn't last very long. Two and a half years, maybe 2 years. 3 years from when it was Chris, myself, and Rodella to when it wasn't GPM anymore. Right.
And that's when, and I think this is the time when, actually, this is probably what led up to Chris deciding to come with me.
Oh yeah. That was after that, huh?
Well, I got a call from Chris after the GPM thing had kind of dissolved. I got a call from Chris saying, "Hey man, we want to try and do this with more of a live band kind of thing." So I joined up. It was myself playing bass. And by the way, those of you that don't know, Christian is a wonderful bass player, and I got to tell you, you're one of the best singers I know of, and especially your harmonizing. Your harmonizing is phenomenal, man. It's anyway.
What are you fucking doing, bro? Shut up.
So I get the call from Chris. He says, "Hey, we want to try and resurrect some of this stuff and kind of see where it goes." So I joined up. It was myself, Chris, Matt Mingle. I don't remember if Keith came in right away on drums or if we still had Ken at the time. I know Ken was there at least for a bit. And
he was there for like 1 or 2 shows.
Right. And I also don't remember the order that this went. I don't know if we did it under GPM first and then switched the name to a Grinch Complex, or if we did it the other.
Yes, that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah. And I think it's because it just wasn't, although we were doing all the songs,
it had become something else. Yeah.
Right. And, but I tell you, I loved playing those songs. It was so much fun. And, there's actually live audio somewhere out there of, we were playing at the Underground, as a matter of fact. And, we covered, Relax. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. We covered Relax. And, it was so much fun doing that kind of music and doing that song. Obviously we had the heavy guitars and everything, but we had a blast. And it's funny, the last show we did, matter of fact, this was the last show before we went to New Orleans. We played a show at the Gardens, and I have a picture. I hope I can find it so I can show it. There's a picture of Chris and I on stage at that show. And I don't know how he did it, but he managed, because this was not my style, I tell you. He managed to get me, I was in like this silver, like overcoat kind of thing. He painted my nails and everything, man. He got me to paint my nails. And I was like, I can't believe
I remember that show, dude.
I'm like, I can't believe I'm letting you do this to me. And I was so freeing to do that. It was so, when I got on stage, I'm like, this is what it's like to have like a persona. You know what I mean? It was so much different. Yeah. It meant so much to me to get up and do that show that way. And, it was just a blast. That ended up but that was our last show. We knew it was our last show going into it. And then I think we left just a couple days after that is when we went down to New Orleans. Yeah. But yeah, that was
when right around that time is when I kind of left the scene too. And then I had, a lot of us were already heading that way, leaving the scene, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, I think that was the same time frame when I just kind of got out of it. And then I didn't see Chris again until Pure Energy had become the Black was it the Black Sheep? When Soda Jerk bought it, what was it called then?
It was the Black Sheep I think it was Industrial Nation when they bought it, but I think they immediately changed it to Black Sheep, if I remember right.
Did I? Well, no, maybe no.
Because it was another name aside from
Chris wasn't involved with Industrial Nation at all.
No, he sure wasn't. As a matter of fact, because I played there with a band called Intake. We played there often, and I remember the first time we played there, we were doing sound check, and the sound man was talking to us, and then he came onto the stage, and he's talking to us about some stuff, and that's when I realized the sound man was deaf, or he had a hearing aid. He was very hard of hearing. And I was like, that's so weird. But and I remember thinking, how is this possible? And the guy, I mean, he did a fine job. He did all right. I'm sure he could hear enough. But I remember thinking,
don't trust him.
This is crazy.
Don't trust him.
But
I'm not making fun of the guy. It's just fucking hilarious.
It was weird. It was really weird, And I don't know. That was good times. And
yeah.
Let's see. Another thing that I experienced, my first experiences with Chris as a sound man, obviously was Pure Energy 2, obviously. And he did, because Color and Same, I can't remember the guy's name. There was a guy that we used to have do our sound all the time. He came in, he would actually go with us even if we left town and stuff like that. Anyway, I started playing in a hip hop band called Pale Units with Danny B.
Remember that? Yeah.
And, I remember we played a show one night, and it's funny because I used to keep a journal of all my shows and everything. And I've looked back on it a couple times, and that particular show I wrote down, I'm like, man, Chris did this shit on purpose. He sabotaged our sound and blah, blah, blah. And I went off and I went back, and Chris had recorded the show. And I never said this to him until after he played me. He's like, dude, you got to check it out. I recorded you guys. And this is years later. He's like, check this out. And he played it, and it sounded so good up front. It was just that we all sounded shitty on the stage. That was the problem. It wasn't Chris's fault. And so I told him after that, I'm like, man, it sounded horrible on stage. And I thought for sure that since we were doing hip hop, I just figured, because I didn't know Chris that well. And I was like, oh, he's doing this because we're playing hip hop and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, I fucking loved you guys. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. I felt like a heel when I did that, man. I was like, you're a dumbass, Brian. Sometimes shit just happens that way,
Yeah.
And
the only time Chris mixed my sound was when this version of GPM played the Black Sheep.
Really?
Was it the Black Sheep? I think it
no,
was the Black Sheep.
No, it must have been. It was Pure. Oh, the version behind you. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was 2003.
I think that when I was in this band Intake, because you didn't always, James wasn't always in GPM, right? Didn't you guys you guys picked him up kind of along the way? And I remember,
I think we picked him up when we were doing the 2003 record.
Now there was a
Toxic Shock was 96, and then the self-title was 2003.
Right. And there was a show that Intake played at. It was a New Year's show, and I'm 100% positive it was with you guys, and it was at oh my gosh, it was over in Rockrim, and I can't remember the name of the place. No, what the heck was the name of that place? But and the reason why I remember, well, aside from the fact that it was a good show, there was a lot of people there. It was a good time. But I remember it was the day that, or at least the first time I had found out, I remember James had a sticker on his amp or something on his amp that said, Korn gave head to God. And, and, so it was like, that was the first time I had found out that Head had left Korn. And another memorable thing about that night was my wife's ex-boyfriend was a bouncer there, right? And this guy, he's way bigger than me. I mean, I don't remember his exact size, but he was a large guy. And I remember he comes up to me.
What year was this?
It must have been New Year's of 2000 and going into 2005. No.
Wow. Going
into 2006, because I met Annie right after Hurricane Katrina, which was in 2005. I met her before that, but we got together right after that. So this must have been the New Year's going into 2006. But anyway, he comes up to me, this large guy, and I'm like, here we go, And he comes up and he goes, I just want you to know, I'm cool with the fact that you're dating Annie. And I remember looking at him like, I don't remember asking your permission to do this, and but anyway, so it became a very memorable night. It was, nothing bad happened with that. He was trying to be cool or whatever. I didn't really care one way or the other what he thought. But I remember that.
Who was it?
His name was Josh. And he was just
Josh the hater.
He was just a meathead bouncer there. But we ended up having a great time. It was a good show. Had a fun time.
I don't remember what the place was called.
I don't either. I can't. And it's been a few different things, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was called. Obviously, as soon as I heard it, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's what it is." But so anyhow, going back to Chris, we came back from New Orleans. Well, he had come back, and then I came back a few months later. And they had already started on the Color Insane 2.0 deal, right?
Oh yeah.
So I kind of, to me,
I was away for all of this. That's when I started stagehanding.
Really? That's still a while before I did, because I started in 03 or 04, started stagehanding. But anyhow, so I get back and I, for whatever reason, because I was young and felt entitled to shit.
I started really stagehanding in 98. So when didn't Chris work at that rounded building theater? What was that place on?
Music Hall.
Airport. The Music Hall. Didn't he work there?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was when I was in intake.
2003. Because I was on tour with Metallica.
Could have been, because I know he was there when I was in intake. I joined intake in 99, and I think I was with them until probably 03, 04, or something like that.
Huh.
So yeah, I think it was open for a while after that. And but yeah, he was there the whole time until it switched to a theater or I think it changed into like a Latino dance hall or something for a long time before it went back to being, now what is it, Stargazers, last I saw anyway.
Stargazers, yeah.
But so yeah, so they started up this Color Insane, and they already had Timmy was playing bass for him, and they were like, yeah, why don't you come in and do a 2 bass thing? I was like, all right, cool, we'll check it out. I went in, wasn't really feeling it, it just wasn't. Did
you guys play a show?
No, I never played with 2.0 at that point. So I ended up leaving. I was like, this just isn't going to work. I left. I was there for
bass players
for the writing process.
That's asking a lot.
And,
unless you're New Order, that's asking a lot.
Well, I did do it with intake. We did 2 bass players
right.
before I switched to guitar, and it was like Craig and I
forget you spent some time as a guitar player.
Yeah, we were. We worked well together as bassists. So, but with Color Insane, I ended up leaving, and then they recorded their album. And I remember, and I've seen them play live. They were great live. And I remember listening to their record, because I remember thinking like, yeah, it'll never be as good as the old Color Insane, blah blah blah. I listened to the record, and I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, this is the one that's going to get these guys somewhere. It's going to be good. And I didn't even realize it. Listening to the record, this is when I first really grasped how good Chris was at his screams. He did a lot of the backup screams behind Danny and Triton. And I mean, the guy, he could do like these 30-second screams that were just on point, same note, whole time. It was just, he was so good at that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, he played guitar with him, with Matt. I believe Matt Mingle was in that band as well.
What was it called again?
Color Insane 2.0.
2.0.
Yep. Yeah. And but Chris was the other guitarist, and he was decent on guitar, And
then he was backing up Triton.
Well, because it was Danny and Triton were both in that band, and then
that's right.
He did all this. He did all like the metal screams in the background, and he was just, man. When he would come in, you knew it, and it really drove the point home. It's a great. If you've never heard that album, definitely check it out sometime. It's a really good album. It's they recorded it with John Saltz at Crooked House, and
oh yeah, I remember that now.
And it was
yeah.
It was a good record.
I think I was there for one of the sessions for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did that. And then after that, that was the same time that I went and played with Intake for a few years. I started with bass. I wanted to play guitar. Well, we had this younger guy that was a guitar player who ended up leaving. So I'm like, that's it. I'm playing guitar. And so they're like,
that's it, man.
That's it. That's all there is to it. And I went there, and that's where any kind of like, I hate to use the word commercially successful, but that band I had, I got to do touring with and had a lot of radio play in other states and things like that. And there was a lot of cool things that happened with that group. But there was a lot of inexperience among us, and just it wasn't I don't know that it was the right group of guys that had what it took to really be on the road. You know what I mean? And I know, Josh, right? From,
Goya?
Yeah, Goya. Josh, he was the lead singer. And it's funny because when I joined the band at first, I remember we had this other singer. His name was Jeremiah. Great guy, but he was just a terrible singer. I mean, for that kind of music, it turns out
that might have been one of the shows I saw too.
It could be, but I remember going to guys. I'm like, look, this has to stop. We can't keep on with this guy. So we ended up, we had
to stop now.
We had a show. It was it was either on October 27th. I remember it was a Halloween show. And when we fired him, like less than a week before the show, and we're like, okay, well, we're not going to cancel. It was at the music hall. So I was like, I got an idea. Let me call Chris. So I called Chris, and he comes over, and we're like, look, we want to do this thing. We want to do like we're going to dress up anyway, so we'll dress in these crazy costumes, and it'll be like an alter ego band. We'll call it the Jim Jones Kool-Aid Party. And you could be the singer, the Jim Jones of the group. You know what I mean? And he came in with one practice with us and completely just made up lyrics on the spot while on stage. And it was so incredibly awesome. And I was like, I could never do that, especially singing. I couldn't get on a stage with people who already have this music and just make some shit up as it goes and make it sound like it was always been there and it's always been that way, And I mean, that's the kind of shit that Chris was able to do that, I wouldn't have asked anybody else to do that because I don't think anybody else would feel that comfortable at that time of anybody I knew. Nobody would have felt that comfortable to get up there and say, just throw caution in the wind and say, fuck it, we're just up here having a good time. And he did an amazing job, man. He did so good.
Chris was not one to shy away from throwing caution to the fucking wind, bro.
No, he wasn't, man. I remember the one time we were supposed to practice, he came out with Intake, and we all ended up, Intake was we were known for drinking. We were like the drinking band in town, which is, at the time I was proud of it. Now I'm like, I don't even remember most of the crap. But we ended up, the guys wanted to go to a strip club. So we took Chris to a strip club. We had fun. We hung out for a while, whatever. Well, he ended up going home and lying to his wife about being at a strip club, and not about being there, but just about where he was. She didn't even care that he was at a strip club. It was the whole fact that he lied. And I was like, oh, dude, why did you do that? Now we look like assholes. And he's like, no, it's not like you drugged me there. She's just pissed because I lied. And I'm like, why did you freaking lie? He's like, I was drunk. I thought I was in trouble. So, which is why we never got any more practices. I think we got one practice like the day before, and it was like a very strict schedule. He showed up. He just kind of listened to us play the songs. He's like, all right, man, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And that was kind of the end of that. And, so the next day he shows up, and that's when we did the show. And he just killed it. He absolutely did amazing.
That's another thing that he could do very well was just, come off the cuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could come off the cuff without a second thought, man. He was not. He's not intimidated by not knowing what the song was supposed to be or what it was supposed to sound like. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was very good at that.
Yeah. Oh. So we let's see. What were we just talking about? Oh, the intake deal. So anyway, I don't really remember. I don't know if I did much. Matter of fact, when I left intake, well, actually when intake, I didn't leave, but we kind of all went our separate ways. Actually, the drummer ended up moving, and it just kind of fell apart. And I stopped playing for a while. And this is where Chris was so integral to my life in particular. I stopped playing, and also another friend of mine that passed away the same year as Chris, Matt Summerall, he used to do this for me too.
Wow, yeah, that's right.
But he called me up, and he did this to me with intake because he knew I wasn't playing then either. But and I remember this one. He's like, "What are you doing? Why are you not playing? You know what?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have nobody to play. I was just poor me. And he's like, "Dude, get your head out of your ass. You need to be back on stage. You need to get up and do what you love to do." And I was like, "I don't know, Chris, man. I don't have anybody to play with. I don't know what I'm going to do." And I did actually do I did the whole Shibetta thing. That was a great project.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that was hot shit.
And I did Diamond for a minute, and after Cliff had left, and anyhow, so when I was doing nothing, Chris had called, and he's like, "Look," he's like, "I'm thinking," he's like, "I want to do another metal project. So what do you think about coming in and doing that with me?" I was like, "Dude,
that's Gripped, right?"
No, he'd already done Gripped. Gripped actually. That's what happened with Color Insane 2.0 is that a few of those guys got upset, in particular Matt and Chris. I don't remember if any of the other guys went, but they broke off from Color Insane 2.0 and went and did Gripped. And yeah, I don't know a lot about their stuff. I heard a lot of stories from Chris that I shouldn't repeat unless I discuss it with the other guys. And
we don't have to talk about everything, man. Just so y'all motherfuckers know, we are leaving some shit out.
Yeah, a lot.
You know what? But y'all don't need to know everything.
That's right. So yeah, so he asked me if I wanted to do this. I said, absolutely. I'd love to do it, man. He'd already done Malachi when they did their first record. So it had been like a month. I called him. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? Are we going to do something or what?" And he's like, "I tell you what." He's like, "I'm thinking about doing Malachi. I want to restart Malachi." And he was no longer. Jameson wasn't there. I don't remember the original bass player's name. He wasn't there. So that's when he picked up Todd and myself, and we went. It took a little bit to gel.
Right?
Yep, John Saltz. Took a little bit for us to gel.
Because that was a Crooked House project too.
Right. And so we took it real slow. The thing I liked the best was that there was no drama in the band. We practiced twice a week tops. There was never drama. The one thing that was weird is we never really hung out together. Occasionally, we go hang out with Chris or something like that, but it was not like we were all attached at the hip. You know what I mean? We all had families. We all had our own things going on. So that was a real draw for me. And then we started writing for our first record, and we did that. It came out really good, and we just kept this momentum going.
What year was this?
I think, I'm honestly, I'm not even sure. It must have been around 2010, 2011, something like that. 2012 at the latest, but I'm almost positive. No, it had to have been before that because I was with them for, gosh, it must have been 5-6 years. It ended up being like the longest band I was in.
Wow.
And he passed in 2015. And I know that because, 5 years in a row, we won the best metal band and the best metal rock band in the independent thing every year.
Yep.
And so anyway, I got in there, and towards the end there, I had, John and I we never really saw eye to eye. He could just be, and he knew it. He could be an asshole, and he would try to get under my skin, and it started to work. And I hated that. And I would get upset, and I'd talk to Todd and be like, "Fuck it, I don't need this shit." And Chris would come talk to me and be like, "Dude, settle the fuck down. Everything's good. Everything's fine." And so we went on, we wrote a couple of records, recorded them. The second record we did, he passed right after he got done doing his vocals. And we ended up finishing the record and releasing it the following February after he passed. That was a tough show to do. But anyhow, that's what he was so integral because he pushed me to do it. Not not that I like, since he's been gone, I don't hinge the fact that I don't play with anybody on him, but it took me a while to even think about playing even by myself after he passed. It really shook me a lot. And it was between
It was
him.
just so fucking unexpected.
It really was.
And here's the saddest thing for me was that when that happened, Chris and I weren't nearly as close as we were back in the day. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, you know, he had his thing with the Black Sheep, and I had a career too. You know what I mean? So we just naturally drifted. You know what I mean?
Right.
But still, man, I mean, it was just so unexpected, man. It was such a shock.
It was. It really was.
On one hand, it was a shock, but you know, for I had not seen Chris for several years at one time. When I saw him again, he was at the Black Sheep. But I got to tell you, man, I was really concerned when I saw him because of the amount of weight he had put on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just had, I mean, you got to remember, I know Chris from 93,
right.
You know, when he was a fucking little fucking kid, dude.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it kind of took me aback a little bit when I saw him like that. And I was like, you know, and the guy loved his drink, man. You know what I mean? Fuck.
Right.
And he was, you know, if he was at the desk, he's having a beer. Fuck.
Right. And, you know, and he, you know, a lot like myself, you know, I've struggled with weight my whole life, been up and down. But you're right. Those like through that last year, I'd had conversations with other people about it, about like, hey man, I'm a little concerned. You know, Chris is, you know, he was going through his typical going up phase. You know, he'd go up, go down, go up, go down. But that last time he really went up a lot. And I remember after he passed, I remember thinking to myself, you know, well, why didn't you just talk to him? You know, why didn't, but not that I blamed myself or anything like that. It was nothing like that, but it's just one of those things like, man, I wish I would have talked to him. But at the same time, I'm telling myself, you know, he wasn't stupid. I mean, he knew that.
Well, I'm sure he had to know that he
got, you know, he had gained a lot of weight and, you know, just from the partying and just the lifestyle that he led. I mean, that's what he loved to do, you know, being in that lifestyle. And, you know, he did it to the fullest. You know, I give him all the props in the world. And yeah, I remember when I got the phone call, man, I was stunned. And it's like, I just finally, and like I said, when Matt had passed in January of that year, so it was quite a ways before. When I got that phone call, I was with Matt right before it happened, but I honestly wasn't shocked by it, you know, because his, you know, what he had gone through was much harder partying kind of stuff, you know, and I kind of expected to get a phone call about him. It sucked and it hurt, but it wasn't a total surprise. With Chris, I mean, I was stunned. I was like, what the hell what do you mean? And it
was fucking shocking.
It was. And for a long time, it was hard for me to, like, even when I went to the what do you call it? The wake and all that kind of stuff. It was tough. It was shocking for me to see him lying there and all that. I'm not a big fan of all that stuff. And then doing the show was really hard. I remember the whole show, I sat in my car and I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Because we had like a bunch of guest singers coming up to do all the spots. And plus Todd sang a lot of the stuff. But it wasn't because of that. It was just like, how am I going to do this without Chris on stage? I mean, we were buds, you know, he was my man on stage. And so we got through that. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to do this again. And I also remember at the same time thinking, you know, I've said this before and Chris would be on your shit, you know, telling you eventually, you know, it's time to get off your ass and do what you know how to do.
Something.
Right. And it took a while, but right before I left, I remember sitting in my garage and point being at the wake and everything, I never really like I was sad, but nothing, I never cried or anything like that. It never really cried. I'd tear up and all that. I remember sitting there in my garage, the last place I lived. And I just really kind of just started getting into watching YouTube and stuff. And I got this, it's funny, I got this suggestion to come up, and I can't remember his name. And I didn't know who he was, which is funny because I've worked for the guy on a couple different occasions, but it was the other singer from, oh my gosh, not Chester Bennington, the other guy.
From Linkin Park?
From Linkin Park, yeah. He had just released his
Mike,
solo.
what's his name?
Right, I think so. And but
Mike,
I didn't know who
his name.
It was.
It's pretty bad. I mean, I toured with them for a whole summer.
He had released a song called something like "Say Goodbye Again" or "I Don't Want to Say Goodbye Again," and I had no idea who the guy was. And I remember thinking, that's weird. I wonder why this popped up into my suggestions, you know. And I remember listening to the song. I don't know if you've ever heard the song. It's called like "Say Goodbye Again." You should look it up if you haven't. But it played, and I remember at the end of that song, man, everything just came out. I just started bawling my head off. And it's kind of funny. I find out because I'm like, man, I got to check this dude out. I don't know what other music he has. And I looked him up, and I'm like, Linkin Park. I was like, you know, I've worked with this guy. I didn't know who that was. And I'd never been like a huge fan of Linkin Park. I didn't hate him. I think for me, I was rubbed wrong with them because of their lighting guys were always they were hard to work with. Anyway, we'll get into that set of stuff next time. But yeah, I heard that, and I remember it just all came out. And then shortly after that is when we ended up moving right after that. Huh. So it took a while for me to finally get that cry out. And I mean, I think about Chris all the time. I miss him like crazy.
Too, man. And especially, you know, lately, because we're doing this. I mean, laying them tracks, man, for Everything Bad, because I sing his parts.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, right. But it felt good. It felt good to do because, and it felt like I put him back, even though we couldn't use his actual tracks. It felt like I put him back in the song. You know.
Right.
So
right.
when it gets released, I hope people understand that he's still, especially the songs that we're rescuing off of the '96 Toxic Shock EP. You know, that he was such a huge part of it.
Right. Great record, by the way. I love that record.
It was different, man.
It was.
Again, we didn't really know what we were doing. We just knew that we needed to, so we did. And
you know, that's kind of what inspired me to call you about doing this. Was you had said something. I remember you had said something. I don't remember where. I must have been on Instagram or something. But you had said something about, you know, we're working on this again, and I remember thinking, holy crap, that's awesome. And that's when I found out that you were doing, you know, a lot of your like your gaming stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, check out the Gen X Chill. I'll post all that stuff, put it in the description, all that kind of stuff. But I remember seeing that, and that's kind of what inspired me, what gave me the idea. I was like, you know, it's something I've wanted to do anyway. But I definitely, you know, I love the fact that you did this with me. And because I didn't know how to carry a conversation by myself.
By yourself.
Just not sure. to that point. And,
yeah, that's you know, I mean, I do it on stream all the time, but you know, and really it's what allows me to do it is the singer in me, the performer in me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like whether there's 10 people in the room or 10,000 people in the room, you play to like it's only the 10 people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But you play like there's actually, you know what I mean? You play, you just, real performers don't play the number, they play the experience. You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
Always in your head, you're always performing to the largest audience you've ever performed to.
Absolutely.
If you don't, then you are missing out on some good shit.
Yeah.
And so are your fucking fans.
Right. And you're absolutely right. And but it definitely takes a talent to be able to, you know, I've watched your streams, and I even tried like a try me screen. And I'm thinking, I don't know what, you know, I don't even know what to say at all. But I think this is going to help me a lot with kind of getting into a groove of just, you know, talking at a camera and all that.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and you know, we've got like I said, we've got a lot of things that we're going to be touching upon.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, I've been a fucking professional fucking roadie for too many fucking years now. So the fact that there is no business called show business right now is going to be a huge topic on the show in one episode. And,
right.
And how are we doing weeklies? Are we doing bi-weeklies? Have you decided yet?
I'd kind of like.
I know this airs on the 14th, right? You said on the anniversary.
Right, on Wednesday.
So,
and
I'm sure we could have a couple more in the can by then.
Yeah. You know, I'm kind of thinking.
Well, actually, today's the 10th, isn't it, or the 9th? Never mind.
9th. Yeah, we'll figure out something. You know, maybe we'll record one before that. Oh, you know what we didn't mention today? Cannot believe we didn't mention this. We got to give the props. Mr. Eddie Van Halen passing away, man.
Oh man,
I can't believe I forgot to mention it. But
fuck this year, man.
I know.
Fuck this year, man.
What the fuck is going on? And,
Johnny Nash too, man. Johnny Nash too. Same fucking day.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Had no idea. And you know, Eddie Van Halen wasn't old. You know, I mean, he wasn't young, but he was only 65.
He had a fucking 3-pack a day habit, bro.
Yeah.
He had a 3-pack a day habit.
Yeah.
He smoked constantly.
I don't know. I think all that talk would be for
he lived hard.
He did. He did it right. But
just like our boy.
So anyway, you know, we could save any other stories. We might have a Sizz. I'm sure it'll come up again. There'll be plenty more.
Sizz is always going to come up. We're always going to. I mean, come on, man. Honestly, the shit we've seen in our 20 plus years in this fucking scene, in this fucking town. There's going to be plenty of stories that come up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And but anyway, I think that'll be good for this first one.
I think we paid a nice tribute to the man. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I think about him all the time, especially now that Matt and I are doing the 2020 Ultra Mix album.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it, man. I really am. I heard. Was that a redo of Virus that you put on that?
Yeah,
I heard that. Sounds good. And
yeah.
So
it's going to be good, man. And we're going to write a couple of new. Actually, Matt's already in the process of writing the 2 new singles that are going to go on the album, and we're going to try to rescue a couple more songs off of Toxic Shock as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to hear it. And but from there, thank you everybody or anybody that tunes in.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And,
thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing the memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
For letting us share some memories.
All right. It's great talking to you.
You guys enjoyed it.
Great talking to you, Christian. I'll talk to you again soon.
See you, bro.